So this video goes over the graphing notes sheet in your notebook. So we're going to talk about graphs, what they are, and the different types that you need to know about for this class. A graph is a visual display of information or data. There are lots of different types of graphs, but there are two main types of graphs that we're going to be talking about in this class. The first type of graph that we're going to be using is a line graph. Here's a picture of a line graph. It's going to have different points connected together by lines. A line graph shows trends or how the data changes over time. You're not always going to see time on a line graph, but it's usually going to have time as one of our variables. When determining where to put something on a graph or how to identify and label our axes, we use an abbreviation called dry mix. The dry part of dry mix is the dependent variable, is our responding variable. It's what responds to our experiment, and it goes on the y-axis. In this example graph, the responding variable or the dependent variable is our temperature. So it goes on the y-axis. The y-axis is the up and down one, the tall one. The mix part of the dry mix abbreviation stands for manipulated independent variable x-axis. Manipulated variable is what you are actually changing or manipulating. That is your independent variable, and that goes on the x-axis, the horizontal axis. In this example video, that x-axis is our time, and that's our independent variable, the one that goes across the horizon or the horizontal axis. When coming up with a title for your graph, we usually use independent variable versus dependent variable. So whatever you have across the x-axis versus the y-axis. So on our example, this was a time versus temperature graph. The second type of graph that we're going to be using a lot is a bar graph. There's a picture, you can see it has various bars. They're usually different colors that represent different things. A bar graph is useful for comparing information collected by counting. For a bar graph, we can also use the dry mix abbreviation. So the dependent variable can go on the y-axis, our responding variable. In our example, that's going to be our number of Skittles in this example. Our dependent variable, what's changing is how many of each color, and that goes on the y, or that up and down axis. For the mix part of the abbreviation, the manipulated or independent variable, that still goes across the horizontal, the x-axis, and in this example, that's going to be the fun size bag. Which bag they're specifically counting in this experiment is the independent variable that goes along the x-axis. For a bar graph, we're going to be comparing similar items and just counting differences. So for our title, it's going to be opposite of the line graph. It's going to be our dependent variable versus our independent variable. So our y-axis versus our x-axis. And in this example, it would be our number of Skittles versus the fun size bags. That's it for your notes on graphing. Hopefully you guys have a good grasp on line graphs and bar graphs.